All right. Hello and welcome to Hello Governor the podcast. As always, I am Abdullah, and my guest today has been in a lot of projects, but you might know him from MultiVersus as Beetlejuice and Lego Dimensions as Beetlejuice, Transformers Devastation as the voice of Wheeljack, and Frenzy. A bunch of characters in Bleach that I cannot remember off the top of my head because I'm too lazy to do actual research. And Rage Bite in the 2015 RID Transformers RID series. Jack Hanma in the Baki series. Um, and a bunch of other stuff, a bunch of Digimon stuff. I was actually shocked at how much stuff you've done for the Digimon series because you've voiced
Oh yeah,
a lot of Digimon, for
yeah,
the reboot and the current series.
yeah,
You're one of the main villains in the new series, so that's insane. And
yeah.
You were the voice of Pop Pop in the Loud House for one episode.
Oh yeah,
And recently you've most likely heard my guest as the voice of the police droids in Maul, Shadow Lord, season one. My guest is Christopher Swindle, a man whose career is never dull.
hello, and thank you for having me.
Also, you were also the voice of James P. Sullivan in Kingdom Hearts 3. Before I forget, so there you go.
That's
That's another
right.
one. See, it's
That's right.
I mean, you ever look at, I mean, I guess my first question is like, you ever look at your career and think, man, I've been in a lot of stuff that even I've forgotten about?
It happens. It happens sometimes, and the weird thing is, it happened so quickly. It really did. I feel like it was just yesterday when I started, and I think that's because I've just had my head down and just plowing forward the best I can to work, and but every once in a while. Yeah, I forget what I've done, and so I have to go back to IMDb and then and look sometimes.
Okay, I gotta ask, like, speaking of IMDb, was the Hoarder in Disney Infinity your first ever role? Because that's the first thing it lists on there. I'm kind of curious if
I get
that's.
yeah, that's funny. I guess that's considered technically like my first, well, definitely with Disney, but like my first professional thing I did. Um, I did before that, I did some sort of it was like a oh, I can't even remember the name of it. And it didn't even end up on my I don't think it ended up on my IMDb. It was like an anime game, but I think it was a mobile phone game. Gosh, and I did it like maybe a year or two before that, but it didn't end up on IMDb. So I guess technically, yeah, the Hoarder from Disney Infinity, which I really didn't even end up in that much in the game, which is ironic. Um, but yeah, I guess so. That would be it.
No, but that's such a fun finding that up because like it's just Disney Infinity. Oh, who did he play? The Hoarder. I'm like, okay, cool. That's an amazing debut.
The Hoarder, and it was gibberish. It was just this little gibberish. It was some random gibberish. I wasn't even on screen that much. And it's funny because that was I think 2013. I could be wrong. But the gentleman that I worked with that day at Disney Character Voices is the same gentleman I'm going to work with tomorrow on a brand new, very exciting project that I can't talk about. But same guy, Ben Hoppy, amazing Disney Character Voices director. And boy, I was so shiny and new and green when I did that first job. I was so nervous and learned a lot since then. So, yeah.
No, I mean, speaking of like your early work, like what made you want to get into voiceover? Like what is your origin story, as they say?
Well, my origin story was I actually lived in Fresno, California, and I did theater there and I had a lot of friends and I got into local radio doing just local radio commercials for like the department stores and grocery stores and stuff. And that was in the early 90s, 92, 93. I think I started doing that and I just loved it. I did more and more, and I felt so comfortable in that booth. And so I really wanted to get into voiceover, but I took a long time doing it. I was not confident in myself, but I wrote I wrote a character demo. I wrote a sample demo myself, and it was based off of like a a dating service. So, and this was on a disc. This was like on a CD, I guess, on a disc. And I wrote these different characters that were beeping in on this woman's answering machine. And that was that was how I showed off my characters, were these guys desperate for a date. Um, and I don't know what happened to that. I don't know where that is now. Um, that was my origin story, and then I held on to that demo for years and didn't do anything. Like 10 years went by because I just didn't feel confident enough to do anything about it. And then finally went down to LA probably about 2002, 2003, and started doing a little bit more here and there. And it took a while. I wish I had started sooner, but that was my that was my origin story, so to speak.
No, I love the idea that, you just came up with, like most creatives, you came up with a bit that sounded great to you, but then you think about it and it's like, why did I think this was a good idea?
Why, why did I think that was a good idea? Yeah, and I actually got a friend of mine, her name was Lee, to be another voice on the demo. She's the woman that's listening. She comes home from after a long day of work, and you just hear her fumbling with the answer machine. Beep. Hi, how you doing? I'm wondering if you want to go out. Beep. And so she's basically fast forwarding to the next guy and the next guy. Sometimes she cuts the guy off halfway through. I'll have to find that. It was pretty good. But yeah, yeah. Some of those voices you look back and go, "Oh, what was I thinking? What was I thinking?"
I mean, but that's the part of the creative process I love is just like coming up with like the dumbest thing ever and thinking like it's
Right.
it's it's genius and then not having someone else to and then when you show it off to someone else, they're like, "What were you
Mhm.
thinking, dude? This is terrible." Like, what was
I
your
was like,
end goal?
"Oh," and that's why I sat on it for 10 years. Uh, oh man. Yeah. So look how far we've come.
No,
Um,
but I mean, it's an impressive
mhm.
career because, like, it's funny. I mean, I mentioned your IMDb because, like, the first thing it shows is like the Hoarder, and then straight to
Yeah.
Transformers. So there you go.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Yeah, it's so funny. Um, Transformers and Devastation. Devastation was my first, as far as like a widely known thing. That was a pretty popular game, 2015. That was my first like voice match gig, I think. Um, and that was cool. And I had done, but I'd done some ADR like right before that. But some of this stuff, a lot of stuff that we do, it doesn't end up on IMDb. We do the voiceover jobs that we do sometimes, like ADR. Sometimes we go in, and I was voice matching for, celebrities at Sony Pictures and Lionsgate, and that was before the Hoarder. Um, but that kind of stuff doesn't show up on your IMDb. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, but it'd be a funny credit, like looking. It's like Transformers, Devastation, Wheeljack, and then like another random movie. It's like Matt Damon, a voice match or something.
I did. Did you ever see The Priest with Paul Bettany?
I
It
I
was a
I I vaguely remember that. I remember
it was a
watching that
yeah.
on. I think I watched that on Netflix back when it was on Netflix, and I'm like, this is
Yeah.
terrible.
It was terrible. It was terrible. It was a random sci-fi kind of thing, but that was my first voice match paid celebrity. I voice matched the younger guy, the hero, and I basically took out his swear words and had to match his voice to the nicer words that were not the swear words, so they could play it on airplanes. They could play the movie on airplanes and syndicated TV. That's what happens. When you hear that voice, you can tell it's taking out the swear words. That's what I did. So that was the kind of stuff I was doing before, the hoarder and all that kind of stuff. It's just that stuff is, you're like a ninja. You're like a voiceover ninja. You don't it's uncredited most of the time. And those are the fun jobs. Mm.
I am so glad you brought that up because I'm obsessed. I don't know if you've done this, but I'm obsessed with like watching compilations of like R-rated movies that are edited down for TV and then like
Yeah.
listening to actors who didn't even try to sound like the actor that they
Oh,
were voice matching for.
oh. The first time I the first time I understood it is I was younger and Smokey and the Bandit. I love Smokey and the Bandit. That movie was on TV. And I don't know, I was young and all the swear words were out of it. And I started to understand every time Jackie Gleason, who played the sheriff in that movie, which is amazing, he's hilarious and fantastic. That role's iconic. Every time it looked like he was about to swear, all of a sudden he sounded like Fred Flintstone, like he out of nowhere. It wasn't even close. It was kind of like him, but they got the guy that was doing Fred Flintstone to cover for him to take out the swearing. And I understood that. I was like, that's another man. So that's when the wheels started working in my head. Oh, that's a job? Somebody does that.
No, I think my favorite has to be the Die Hard 2 line where they change the iconic line to
Hmm.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
Mr. Falcon. Wow, what a classic. Yeah.
it, it's just so amazing because I'm just one of those weirdos who's like, can we just like get, because you see a lot of like Blu-rays and 4K Ultra releases nowadays where
Yeah.
they talk about like cleaning up old films and re-releasing them and what
Mhm.
have you. And I'm like, why can't we do that for like the TV edits? Like just give me the TV edits of these movies on like Ultra HD and I'll be happy.
I agree. I would so be there. I agree. Definitely. Definitely.
No, no,
Um,
but going back to Transformers because I'm a huge Transformers fan. Obviously, I mean, if you've listened to the
oh
show,
yeah, yeah.
you know, you know. But
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like, what was it like, working on that? Because I think you were like at the time, and this was like 2015, so this was, I think you were probably one of the first guys to come in to do like an official voice match for Chris Lotta's Wheeljack as opposed to just like doing
Yeah,
your own thing. So, what was that
right.
experience like?
That was so exciting. I wish that I had the way they record it is you come in one at a time. It's a lengthy process and you're going line by line. So it's not I wish that it would have been the experience of standing around the room with the guys, with the other folks, but it just doesn't work that way. You come in one at a time. Although it took a couple of I think it was a couple of sessions that we did, and I think the second session I came in, Michael Bell was on his way out, and so we passed each other, and I said hello, and he was, and he said hello, and he didn't know who I was, and but that was the only time I got to see any of them and and talk to any of them, but it's an honor. It's an honor. And that we took and a lot of care went into that game. So that was nice to see the amount of care that came into that. So, and I was nervous. I didn't want to screw it up, you know. So hopefully, I think people liked it though, right? I think it came out good.
It's
So
it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, you ever have one of those things where, you listen to an actor in a legacy role and you're like, why can't they just be the thing for like ever? It's like
yeah,
why do we have to
yeah,
like, pick someone else? Like, Peter Cullen is Optimus Prime and
yeah,
Frank is Megatron. And I'm like, because I remember listening to it, back, when I was playing the game, back in the day, and I
yeah,
re-listened to clips before this interview, and I'm like, I don't understand why they didn't keep you on as Wheeljack, going forward. Because, like,
Mm.
it's like, he's really good. I mean, I know everyone makes fun of the whole, like, the mission where you have to protect him, and he is constantly screaming at you. It's like they're on me, get this guy off me. But it was fun. I'm like, I wish it's one of those things where I'm like, I wish he would just like, just make him the official voice of Wheeljack. I mean, come on, guys.
Oh, well, that's kind. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Yeah, it's odd. It's there and then it's gone, and then you don't really hear about the next things that come along sometimes. Um, they were looking for um, I did get to read for the Bumblebee film. They came out. You remember in the very top of the opening, they had the classic characters, right? Right at the beginning of the film. And they had like a couple lines. And I did they were nice enough to audition for me. And I did. They wanted something a little bit more darker and grittier sounding, and Steve Bloom is amazing, and of course Steve got the part for that, and it was I think one line in the movie, but it was nice to read for it, and it was nice that they did reach out. But that's really the only time I ever heard from anybody. It was there was never really any follow up after that when it came to Wheeljack. It was just like a kind of a one and done kind of thing, and I'd love to do it again, of course. But there's some great guys out there doing it, and they're amazing too. So, but yeah, I did try out for the Bumblebee movie, so that was fun.
It's funny you mentioned that because you're not the first person I've had on here who's like, I auditioned for that movie, but I didn't get anything from it. I'm like, and then and then you think about that alternate reality where it's like, what if, Talon Warburton was Blitzwing instead of like David Sobolov? What would that have sounded like?
Oh wow, yeah, 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 you never know. You never know. So yeah, and then I got to do Robots in Disguise, an episode, 2017, I believe, as Rage Bite.
Yeah, that was interesting as well because it's like, what was that? I was just about to ask, like, you worked on, the 2015 RID series, and
Yeah,
as a one shot character, but still, like, that's a huge deal. Just to be a part of a Transformers cartoon is a huge deal, and
it was. Yeah,
even if it's a bit part, it's like, I'm glad that they kept you on for something. It's like, I mean,
that was
come on,
nice.
I mean, come on, the name Christopher Swindle. Come on, come on, they have to.
Oh well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I honestly, I was hoping, I would get to do more with the Transformers thing. You never know. But I was really glad to be a part of that. That was cool because that was the one time that almost the whole cast was there. And so that was my first time coming into a room with that many people in it. And I think there was only one person who wasn't there. And I forget who it was, but all the bots were there. The humans, there were a couple of the humans that weren't there, but everybody else was, and we're all standing in a circle. That was crazy. Um, so that was a good experience.
Okay, like, did imposter syndrome ever kick in when, you walked into that room and then it's like, oh, there's Will Friedle as Bumblebee and there's, Optimus Prime or whoever.
Well, Kari Payton, you had all the people in there for that one. It was um yes, definitely. And the one thing that threw me, and I've learned a lot since then, gosh, it was ages ago. I got used to wearing headphones in the booth, and I created the voice of Rage by wearing headphones. It was just something that I did. And so it was a good lesson that day because I walked into the room and that particular studio doesn't use headphones. And so I was just for a second, I'm like, oh no, oh no. But it was totally fine. We rolled with it, and but it was a good lesson to always be prepared, either on headphones or no headphones. So that was one of those things. But yeah, there were so many talented people there, and it was great to meet those folks. It was a one-time deal, and I would have loved to have done more, but yeah. Yeah, that was a good time.
Did you ever get a chance to record ensemble on any other projects, or has it all just been like anime dubbing and other stuff that you have to do solo?
No, there were a few times. There was a series um that a few of us did called Vault the Wonder Deer. This is a random series that we did in also in 2017. It was a you can find it. You can find it on YouTube. They couldn't figure out what the heck to do with this. It was an English cast. It was backwards. It was an English cast, and then it was dubbed into Mandarin afterwards. But they wanted English voice actors to do it first, and I play the villain and his sidekick on that show. There's a bunch of people: Sarah Sands, Mick Wingert, Matt Mercer's in that. We had so much fun, and it's like this random little off the wall series that didn't get picked up by anybody. They couldn't figure out what to do with it, and then it just ended up on YouTube. That was great because that was the cast read. We were all in the room. Um, and it was like a it was like a fantasy show based off of the magic deer folklore and legend. And it was uh it was great. They just couldn't figure it out. So, but that was a cast. That was a cast read. Um, Kung Fu Panda, Paws of Destiny with DreamWorks. That we had a room full of folks for that. That was pretty great. Um, a lot of the but all the stuff I do for Disney TV, that's usually us by ourselves, one at a time. So I do miss the whole cast in the room. So yeah.
And how did you get involved? I mean, how did I mean? Because I meant yeah, because I mentioned anime dubbing as well. I mean, you've done a
Yeah.
lot of anime, so and I asked this of everyone who's ever done anime, like, how did you take to dubbing? Was it easy or was it hard?
How did I take to dubbing?
Yeah, was it easy or
Um,
was it hard? Like, was there ever
y
a difficulty curve during the process?
there was a there it was a difficulty curve, but it was a quick one, once you figure it out. And both times it was learning the new system. Um, I started dubbing because of my work with Transformers. It was that Robots in Disguise, because that was at Studiopolis, the studio, and I got to know them pretty well over there, and they asked me to audition for some dubbing. I was like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. I hadn't done it yet, and that was back when you were looking at the page in front of you, or they had like the script up on the screen. Okay. So you got one eye on the script and then one eye on the video. Well, and that was fine. And then everything changed to the new system where they run the words now across the bottom of the screen like it's a winter storm warning. And that was a whole new thing to learn. Um, but after you do it for a day, after you do it for a session, it kicks in just fine. But that was interesting.
And I gotta ask, like, was there ever a point where you gave a read and the director was like, "Oh, we gotta do it again because it didn't match the flaps"?
That happens. That happens a lot. You'd be surprised. Well, because English doesn't, it's not going to translate the same. And so there's a lot of times in the process we have to rewrite on the fly just because there might be more mouth flaps in Japanese than we would use for certain words. And so if that happens, then on the fly, our brilliant engineers are doing it. They're rewriting stuff to make it fit. Um, and then hopefully on the second pass you nail it and then you move on. So it is a quick process and it's amazing to me how fast they work. But yeah, that does happen. It does happen.
And seeing as you do a lot of voice matching and you voiced matched for a lot of celebrities and a lot of character actors, which actor would you say you had the most difficulty voice matching?
Um, well, they're all, they all have um a little bit there's always a little bit of a challenge. Recently I did Prep and Landing. It's the Snowball Protocol. It was a Christmas holiday special that Disney did, and the original cast did it 14 years ago. And so they got the whole cast back together, except for our brilliant William Morgan, who passed away, and he was their Santa. He was the big guy for Prep and Landing for the first two or three specials that they did. That was him. So he was the only one not to return, and I was scratching for Disney TV, and I got the opportunity to try it. And so I think the difficulty from that was the pressure that I put on myself because this man was, he was Santa for these holiday specials, and I was just a nervous wreck. He had a he's a very British Santa, and so I didn't want to screw that up. Very European. Um, and so I've used to playing Santa very different. So this was the first time playing a more of a European British Santa, leaning towards what William did, and that was my way of honoring him and not trying to do something new. So that I think the difficulty in that was just the pressure I put on myself. So yeah, but it was a huge honor.
And do you watch or play any of the games or series that you've worked on, or can you not stand listening to yourself?
Oh, it's hard. It is hard for me to listen to myself. Um, it is. It is, but also I try to force myself to learn about what I like and don't like about it. I don't do it a lot. Um, Recently had some fun, watching the Star Wars stuff. But I don't watch everything. I don't watch everything.
I mean, listen, as long as you're not like calling up the directors and being like, I mean, of all the takes we did, why did you pick that one? It's okay.
What were you thinking? No, no, never, 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 never do that.
No, no, but it's interesting because like whenever I watch your work and you've because again you've done a lot of voice matching and what have you. And I'm always amazed like whenever telling myself, oh, the guy who voiced Beetlejuice in MultiVersus is also the same guy who
No.
voiced James P. Sullivan in Kingdom Hearts 3. It's like that's insane to me. It's like that cannot be the same person. They don't sound anything anything alike.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. That is good to hear. That's always our fear is that we're not doing our job correctly. So that's nice to hear. But the voice matching thing, we I know some folks that do it, and we take a lot of pride in doing it. And I have a big new voice matching project I'm starting tomorrow. That's going to be several days of work, and I won't be able to talk about it probably for a while. And it's going to be a big one. Very excited, and I'll be happy to talk about it when I can.
So, moving on to the thing that I think most people probably know you for nowadays. I mean, according to your IMDb anyway, where I love it where it's like known for, and then it puts like, various like projects, and it's
Oh,
like, and I'm like, are they really known for this IMDb, or are you just like making stuff up to sound impressive?
known for.
Um,
Yes,
but we gotta talk about Maul Shadow Lord. I mean, because how can we not? It's an amazing
right,
series. Like, how did that whole
right.
thing come about? Like, what, was that an audition or was that like a call in?
That was several auditions, and what a huge honor. This was the best lesson ever in persistence that I can pass on to any voice actor that's coming in the business that is so used to doing maybe a few auditions here and there and getting impatient. I auditioned for Lucasfilm animation probably for 7 years straight with no results. 7 years. I auditioned for every single character that was thrown my way. And I knew just to keep going, keep doing it, try to be consistent the best I can every single time. And, after a while, you may start to get a little discouraged, but I kept doing it. And that's because that's what we do. So finally, I got a role for Young Jedi Adventures, and it was an offer. It was a straight up offer, and they were so kind. And they said there was a note in the email to my agent that said this isn't for anything that he auditioned for recently. This is for everything that he auditioned for the last 7 years. So we're offering in this role, which was crazy. And so I did a couple of roles for Young Jedi Adventures, and the second one I did was for Apex. He was a villain droid, and I was the final droid for the series. It was the final um, baddie that the kids had to fight, and I guess because of that, they were happy with my stuff. They actually offered me uh, the role of the police droids for Maul, and that was a huge honor.
That's incredible because like it just goes to show you like hard work and perseverance like pays off in the end.
Yeah, yeah, you can't give up. Can't give up. Um, yeah, and it's a beautiful show. It's an amazing show. It's incredible. Um, it's yeah, that was almost 2 years ago. So and it came out good. It sounds good. I'm so happy that people like it. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, because even when I watched, I remember watching the first two episodes. I'm like, okay, I can already tell this is gonna have like a slow build, but the payoff is gonna be amazing, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
So there you go.
yeah, yeah. I like the pace of it. I don't know if I would have liked it if it was the last two episodes, so the whole way through. I honestly I think it was smart the way they did it because it felt like a true crime drama. It took its time. It established relationships, father and son, you know, with the cops. It it needed that, and so I really like the. I think it's some of the best Star Wars TV I've ever seen, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, because I was worried, like, because I mean, if you go back and listen to, when they announced the series a year ago, I was skeptical. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, do we really need a Darth Maul TV show? What are we doing? And what have you?
yeah.
But then, I watched it and I'm like, okay, I'm interested in seeing what I'm interested in now because I think, God, this is gonna sound really controversial, but I think Star Wars is at its best when it's not just trying to be like a schlocky when it's not trying to be a
Hmm.
schlocky sci-fi series. I think it's at its best when it's trying something new. Even if it doesn't work, I'm
Yeah.
like, you're trying something new and not just being like, well, people like the Lucas stuff, so let's just do the Lucas stuff. I'm like, but no, I mean, can we, you have an entire universe and, can we play with it? Can we do something new with it? Can we like,
Hmm.
let's do a crime drama. Let's do like, what do you
Yeah.
call it?
Why
Like
not?
a Netflix style series of like, intrigue and what have you, and just have that be set in Star Wars, like it's one of those
Yeah.
things where I know people complain where it's like, oh well, Maul doesn't really do much, in terms of lightsaber fights and stuff like that until the end, but I'm like, but that would be boring. Like, you got to
Mm,
build up to it. You can't just like have him
it
like
would be.
you can't just have him like whip out his lightsaber and just like kill everybody on in episode
Uh,
one. I mean, no, I mean just like build up to it
uh,
and look, man,
yeah.
I will say it right now. I think Sam Witwer is like one of the finest actors I have ever heard. I think he can do no
Yeah.
wrong. I think every line he delivered in that series was incredible, and I think like if you're someone who wants to get into acting, if you're like, what is an amazing performance, just like Maul, just like watch any of the scenes he's done in that show or any other Star Wars show he's done, and it's like it's incredible. It's like that's like
Yeah.
that's an I cannot say enough nice things about Sam Witwer. He's incredible,
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, he's an amazing guy. And he's always there. He's always there at the recording sessions, even if it's not his day to work. He was in the room every time I was there, and we'd talk and catch up. Um, I played, the last time I saw him, I joked with him in the room. We're getting ready to start, and I pulled him over and I said, "Listen, Sam, there's something really important I got to ask you, man. And, this is going to depend on whether or not you and I can be friends." And he's like, "Oh God. Oh, what? What?" I said, yeah, I don't know. This is really important. Okay. I mean, this is serious, Sam. I don't know. I don't know if you can. Okay, you ready? Is it AT or at? And he he, he like he took a minute. He's like, well, uh, I mean, it could go both ways. But I mean, I'm gonna have to go with at. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, it is at. Thank you. We're friends. We can be friends. Okay, thanks. And he laughed and he walked off. I love him.
And I'm so glad that they got him to record with Gideon Adlon together. I'm like, yes, I don't think the show would have been nearly as good if they had recorded their lines separately. I'm like, no, you kind of need them to record together.
Yeah, no, that was another one that we were all in the room the best we could, depending on everyone's schedule. I didn't get to meet Gideon, but when I was there, there were always a few others in the room, and they would do their best to kind of stay to keep everyone on schedule, and um, but yeah, that was a definite. And so, sometimes people are zooming in too at the same time. I think the first time I read, it was um, I think three or four of us in the room, and then Steve Bloom was zooming in as well on a screen. So yeah, it definitely helps.
And I'm kind of wondering, like, what where phew, just lost my train of thought. Yeah, I was just about to ask, like, did you get a chance to record with anyone, during that session, or was it just like, separate?
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes just the police stories are kind of doing their own thing, but if it was a back and forth with somebody else, they would do their best to have somebody there. I went in on the first day with three or four options in my head that I was going to present to them. And that's always a little nerve-wracking because these are the people. I mean, this is the team. This is the dream team. And so, okay, I'm gonna go in there. I got three or four different voices where I'm gonna try out. But everything changed when Matt and Brad they came into the room with me and they got very excited and they explained to me the concept of the show that they wanted to go with an old detective noir type thing. And as they were describing it to me, I'm listening and I just came up with a new voice in my head of what I should probably do for the police droids and try to make them old-timey, an old-timey sounding newsreel voice since they want an old detective show. And so that's what we came up with. Um, so the creative process was amazing to watch and be a part of.
And plus, like, you got to make them different sounding so people can know that, Two Boots is special because he does not talk like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I knew that he would have a very different sound. And so we wanted, my guys to sound very different, and we worked on that too. So, and I never got to meet him. Brilliant. But yeah, yeah. And my whole life, I grew up in Star Wars, so it was a full circle moment for me to be a part of this whole thing.
It's like, look, man, it's just being like, I think it's so fun to just like, be the guy that they call up to do like, hey, we gotta, we got this thing to do in Star Wars, you want to do it? And it's like, yeah, absolutely.
Gosh, yeah, anytime. Um, and the thing is too, you're grateful, if they include you. They've got so many people that they can use and they do, you know. I'm not sure if I'm coming back for season two, and that's okay because they have a lot of brilliant people, on their roster that they like to use for different things. I know folks that didn't get to be in Maul, you know, that are on their list of go-to people. So I was lucky to get season one. I'm not sure if season two is happening for me or not, and that's okay. But yeah, it is nice when they bring it on, and I would be happy to do it again.
But it is, I mean, it is fun because like even if it's like just a couple of ancillary characters, You're still being you're
Absolutely.
you're still part of a big universe, and again, I love how you came up with the idea of like, okay, it's if it's gonna be like an old detective show, let's go back to those old detective shows, and let's do that, let's have fun, let's
Let's
create,
do it. Old timey sound. Got to bring that back. Newsreel. Some different that they haven't heard from yet in a police droid. Yeah, yeah. Gosh, I wish they would come out now with the action figures. But I mean, if anything, they would have a Two Boots character, which would make sense. So if they come out with the Two Boots character, I'm just gonna put a little visor over his eyes, and I'll take off his boots, and then it'll be me. It'll be me. Anyway,
I don't think they do army builders anymore. I think outside of like the stormtroopers, I don't think they do the army builders because I don't remember ever seeing like the droids for like the Black Series. Because I remember seeing a lot of stormtroopers during the heyday of like
uh-huh,
the sequel series, the sequel trilogy.
right?
God, remember the sequel trilogy? Every time, every movie, they're like, we
Mhm.
gotta have a new stormtrooper variant. We gotta have a new stormtrooper
We gotta
variant.
have it. This one's gold. This one's red. Um, yeah, but the great thing is now we have 3D printers. So I need to I told a friend of mine now that I've got like five Star Wars characters now, including Young Jedi Adventures, and I got to play the couple of Pike. I played a Pike character on Maul as well, and um, I want to. I'll have to get a 3D printer at some point and make my own figures. Yeah.
I look, man, I'm just one of those guys who's like, when are we gonna get the Spybot merch? Where's Spybot? He's my favorite character.
Where's Spybot? Where is the Spybot merch? Yeah, that's Spybot is our baby Yoda. So so yeah, I'm hoping that, due to the success of the show, and now that we got season two coming, that they will do more as far as the merch goes, because there wasn't anything out, this time around. So, but I think more and more will start coming out now.
Yeah, because I mean, look, I'm one of those guys who's, like I mean, I'm in my mid 30s. I'm very cynical when it comes to like Star Wars introducing like new characters. I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we go. They're introducing like the kid-friendly characters and it's really annoying and I hate it. But
Hmm.
the first time I saw Spybot and the second he came on screen and started doing his lines, I'm like, okay, you won me over. You've done it. You've created a character. You've created like one of those kid-friendly characters that has won me over.
Yep. Yep. And I'm sure they'll do it again for season two because, they're brilliant. So can't wait to see what they come up with.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's just it's such a great series, and I'm just like, and another thing I'm really glad about is like they gave us like 10 episodes. I'm like, oh, thank you so much for
Hmm.
that. I mean, we needed 10 episodes. It's not just like here's 8 episodes. I'm like, no, give me more. Don't do the whole thing where it's like, oh, you only get 8 episodes, and I'm like, no,
Yeah,
give us more episodes. We don't need like 8 episodes. I don't like the 8 episode format. I think that's way too short of a run for a season.
it is. Sometimes it is. Sometimes they do their best with the budget that they're given. And it can be a thing of, well, if you want to do it right, if you want to have a bigger budget and make it look good, then yeah, you're going to have to cut your episodes down. And sometimes they have to make that tough call. And they came off of, the Bad Batch averaged 16 episodes a season. So some people were complaining that it dropped down to 10 for our show, but the budget on our show was insane, and they needed to do it right, and they were hand painting our backgrounds. Those are actual brush strokes. And so, yeah, I think 10 was a good number, I think. Sometimes I wish the episodes were longer because I'm a fan too, and I don't want it to end, but I do think 10 was a good number.
Yeah, it's so weird like seeing people complain about like, what do you call it? Going from like 16 episodes to 13 episodes to
Yeah.
10 episodes, but I'm like, nowadays like we're lucky if we even get like 10 episodes because it's just becoming rarer and
Yeah.
rarer, and
It
And
is.
and I get it, like, like you said, I mean, budgetary constraints and I mean, look, I mean, again, I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody, but there are like a couple of Star Wars animated projects that have come out in the recent years that I wish looked
Mm.
better, but they didn't because like they didn't have the budget for it. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
either like it either looks amazing or it just looks like standard TV animation. And sometimes it's like, well, it's either you get this or you get nothing. And I'm like, okay, fine, and sometimes because
Yeah.
again, like when I was watching Maul and I was like impressed at how beautifully animated it was, I'm like, man, I wish the Tales series looked as good as this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we learn and we evolve as we go along. And I think Maul did a lot. It did a lot. And um, something for the other the creative groups to look at. Like why was it successful? It was good storytelling. It was good quiet moments. It wasn't treated like um a typical animated series. One of my favorite scenes is in the first episode when they bring her in when she's been arrested. And I my guys put her through the processing and there's a quiet moment there where you sound like you are in a police office and there's just typing happening in the background and people are walking by. People it doesn't have to be constant lightsabers in music. It's like that was a real moment that was so great and grounded, and I felt like I was, something cool was building. So I like it when they do that and take their time.
Yeah, building atmosphere. That's so it's so weird.
Yeah,
It's so weird like watching Maul and then going back to the other Star Wars shows where it's all just action and yelling and all that
yeah,
stuff because it's like, oh, we got to keep the kids entertained.
yeah. And that's okay. That's a lot of it was um, the other show I did, the Young Jedi Adventures. It was that's Disney Junior. That's preschool. That's a very different Star Wars experience, and that's okay. A lot of youngsters really like it. And they're short stories. They're much quicker. They're only 11 minutes an episode. So it depends on your audience, and what you're going for. But yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned Young Jedi Adventures because I also wanted to ask about that. When you're recording a preschool show, it's a much different experience than a regular
Yeah.
show. Not that regular show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Other regular show.
Yeah.
But and I'm kind of wondering, like, was there a difficulty with that because it's
Hmm.
much more because I've talked to a lot of actors who worked on preschool shows, and some like doing
Hmm.
them, others find them too constricting. How do you feel about them?
Well, I was happy. I was excited to be a part of it just because, again, it's Star Wars. So that was my childhood. Um, the challenge always is, this is a Disney Junior show, and so yeah, you want to make sure that it's the right tone, it's the right pacing. Um, the the first character I did was just he's a thief, and he was more comedy. But when I played Apex, their final villain, um, he that was a challenge because the creatives came to me and they said, "Okay, this is it. This is our final guy. we we can actually make him scary." And I thought, "Oh, like how? Oh." And you could tell it was a big deal because they haven't really been able to do scary. Like, no, 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 we can amp him up for this final villain. We can make him scary. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I started, playing with different things and and I was also worried. I was like, oh, oh, no, no, that's too much. That's too much. That's too dark. I said, no, 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 that was good. Let's try it again, try it again. And then we get into it for Apex. and just making him, he was very dark and scary. And so you get in the middle of the episode and then they stop you and they're like, "Yeah, maybe that's a little too much. It's a little too dark." I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay, all right. I went too far. I went too far." But we had a lot of fun doing that. But yeah, that was definitely a challenge to ride that very thin line.
Man, that must be a lot of fun to just be like, okay, you can play a villain in a preschool show and you can finally make them scary because a lot of times when it comes to because a lot of times when it comes to preschool shows and you're playing a villain,
Yes.
the people come in and they're like, oh, you can't make it too scary and blah blah blah, and and you have to
Yeah.
like walk that fine line. But I'm kind of glad that they gave you more room to be like, okay, you can be intimidating, you can be threatening, it's fine. He's the final villain of the show, so
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was fun. That was a lot of fun. Um, but they had a pretty cool. But that episode's pretty great. That last one, they did some fun shots with the kids, and that's a great lightsaber battle because they're all attacking my guy at once, and so I'm sure I hope the kids like that one. But yeah, yeah, that was fun to do.
And again, it's gonna be a thing now where it's like, oh, it's another droid. Gotta, you know.
Oh, please, I will do every droid they want me to do. Um, we did. I did. There was a character I did that eventually that didn't make it in. I was supposed to play on Young Jedi Adventures the very first training droid. He was an ancient relic that the kids go looking for that they find and they put him together and he was the very first training droid, and I got to do an episode as that. But for some reason, um, there were some episodes just didn't make it into the final season, and that just happens sometimes. Um, but we had fun recording it. So yeah, anytime they need a droid, or my goodness, I'll be there in a heartbeat.
But those are always fun because I think it's I think one of the things about being a voice actor that not a lot of people talk about is being a utility actor, because a lot of times you're brought into these
Mhm.
projects and you're not going to be voicing like a main character or like a recurring
Mhm.
character. Sometimes you're just going to be there to fill up the world. It's like, okay, we need someone
Mhm.
to do voices for these droids or aliens or whatever, and you have to be there. You have to be on your feet and ready
Yeah.
for anything that they throw at you.
Yeah, and to me that's the best because honestly, you work more. You're more if you can open yourself up and stretch yourself more. I would much rather do that any day. And that's what you learn very early on. It's not about the fame of playing a lead role. That's not appealing to me as much as it is to do good, consistent work, no matter what it is. Because sometimes, the folks that do the lead roles, and that's good for them. Um, but that's all they do, and they don't stretch themselves. And the character actor who actually tries to have a little bit of range and just be accessible to whatever they need, I think is a better approach for working. And all those roles are so great to me. Um, yeah, I would much rather be a utility character actor any day.
And do you have any personal preference when it comes to roles? Like, do you prefer comedic roles towards serious ones, or does it not matter to you?
It does not matter to me. I love it all, and I am open, and that's the thing. You keep yourself. I love comedy. I love drama. I love the scary stuff too. But no, it's whatever you need. And you got to be ready because they might throw stuff at you last minute that you just weren't even prepared for. And you learn that very quickly with Disney television. It's a lot of, hey, while you're here, would you mind doing this too? And oh yeah, one more thing. Can you do two or three of these guys? So you just got to prep and be ready for anything. And yeah, I like all of it, honestly.
I love it because like I love it whenever you build enough trust with people and they can give you these types of roles, but also like you gotta be on your feet because a lot of times like because I remember back during the Clone Wars days, a lot of the reason the cast voiced various characters on that show is because Dave Filoni was like, "Hey, while you're here, can you read for this other character that you didn't audition for or
Yeah.
anything like that? Just read for it. It's fine.
Hmm.
Just read for it."
Well, that's what just happened with Maul. I didn't audition to be a Pike. That was in the moment. And so I was a Pike and I was also a Commando. I got two episodes as the Commando character. They were the guys that got blown up in the ship as they were trying to escape. And I think I had one line in one episode and one line in another. So two lines total, but they were the two guys in white with Rook that were they were complaining, you know, that they weren't making any money and they were thinking about skipping out of town. And then we got blown up in a ship. Those were thrown at us as we were there. And that's what you gotta, you know, be ready for. And I was happy to because that put me in more episodes. So sure, bring it on. Absolutely.
And again, that's a great feeling because like you're brought in to fill out the world and that's just give me anything
Yeah,
just throw a bone at me and I'll do it.
absolutely. Absolutely. You want to be the best you can. Don't be a jerk. Try to be as good as you can, quick on your feet, and thank them. Always thank them and be kind. That shouldn't be a hard thing to do. I don't have any room for divas and egomaniacs. Um, so, but yeah, I think just be grateful and do the best you can. I think is a good rule of thumb.
And what was the best and worst piece of advice you've ever been given as an actor?
What's the worst?
The best and
Is
worst
that
piece of the best and worst piece of advice you've ever been given as an actor.
the best is always look for truth, which is very true. It's true. Look for truth. No, find the truth in everything that you do. And if you, whatever it is, if you're playing a droid or if you're playing Jack Hanma, even though he is a horrible person, you, you have to find truth in what he's doing. Then the audience is going to buy it, that it is truth. So that was the best. The worst piece of advice I've probably ever gotten is don't try that because it made me go in the opposite direction and try it. Don't try that is sometimes something you might get from a quote acting teacher or um, someone who says, "Oh, you probably shouldn't do that. Or you probably shouldn't try this or don't do that." Um, I tend to not listen to that kind of advice unless it's harm like, if someone's saying don't be harmful to yourself or another person, that's different. Don't light the studio on fire. Sure, I get that. But when someone's telling you to not try an acting choice, that's not good advice because you should always try. And if it doesn't work for you, that's okay. But maybe it doesn't work for them. So they're saying not try it, but maybe you can actually do it. So why not try? So that's probably the best and worst.
That yeah, I mean, because like because a lot of times, and I've talked to plenty of people like this, and a lot of times like the casting people don't even sometimes like they don't even know what they want, and your job is to go in there and like experiment, and
Yes.
maybe they'll hear something and they're like, oh, that's what I want, because like a lot of times they don't know what they want.
Mhm.
They'll just like write a very like have a basic description
Yeah.
of what they think they want, but then when they hear it in person, they're like, oh no no no, what you did was great. Our ideas were not that, it's much better than what we came up
Hmm.
with.
Yeah, it does, and it took me a while to understand that because I was, I started out a little shy, but once I learned that it's okay, if they welcome it, it's okay to speak up, and while they're thinking, say, "Hey, can I try that one more time?" and just try a different thing. And if it doesn't work, that's totally fine. But why not? You might, like you said, they might hear something that they weren't thinking about, and at least you tried it. And you won't go home and thinking, "Oh, why didn't I try that one voice? Oh, that would have been so good." So yeah, you got to try.
And outside of voiceover and acting, do you have any personal hobbies?
No, that's it. I have no life. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, it's sure. I like to do art. I like to I paint every once in a while, nothing major. I like to um I miss doing theater. I haven't done live theater in a long time. That used to be my kind of go-to hobby. But yeah, I like to travel when I can. Um, but yeah, I like to do art here and there. So yeah.
I'm guessing like you stopped doing theater once the voiceover stuff started to pick up steam, or did you just like,
Yeah.
did you just like not have time to do it anymore?
It's a little bit of both. It's the time consuming thing, finding the schedule to do it. And that's all it is, to be honest. But yeah, it is good to have those things sometimes to take a break. I have not done conventions. I have not done conventions yet. So that would be a whole other thing to get into.
No, I was just about to ask, like, I don't think I've ever seen you at a con or announced as a con guest or anything
Oh,
like that. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, was that
yeah.
what is that something you're considering dipping your toe into in the near future or not?
Yeah, definitely. But I wanted to take my time before doing that. I wanted to build a career first and then do conventions. I think it's a little um some people rush into it a little quickly, which is always interesting to me. Um they do one role and then they want to go sign autographs and then teach classes. Um I wanted to build a career first and actually maybe have something that people would know I was in. I don't, that's where also too, the imposter syndrome comes in. Like, I don't want to go to one of these things and no one want, want me to sign anything. What if I have like five people show up? I have like five fans. So I wanted to do some work first and then do cons. Maybe next year.
Because you've built up an impressive resume. Like again, like
Hmm.
because again,
Well, thank you.
I wish I was better when it comes to watching stuff because I'm at that point in my life where I think, I just look at all these shows and I'm like, oh, I should watch that sometime, and then I never do. So I kind of
Oh, that's
wish
okay.
I kind of wish I watched more of the stuff you're in because I like, that I wish I could talk about that more in more detail, but I just never got the chance to watch any of it because I'm a
Oh, that's okay.
lazy because I'm just lazy.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's okay. Hopefully I've done some things that people like and I would love to go to conventions. Um, so yeah, maybe starting next year, I'll start getting into that. But yeah, I did want to take my time and not rush it. I didn't get into voice acting to be famous. It was different for me. Creating things and working with people and meeting amazing people and telling stories, but and I look forward to meeting the fans and if they want me to sign something, absolutely. But there's a difference. I didn't get into it to be famous and sign autographs. So yeah, took my time, but maybe starting next year I'll start doing the cons if people want me to come.
Then they can yell at you in person for not sounding like Michael Keaton in multi.
How dare you? Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Bring it on. Bring it on. No, I love Beetlejuice so much. You know what I'm saying? He's the best, babe, 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 babe. Yeah, he's the man. Keaton is the man.
Yeah. Anyway, like before I wrap this up, because we're yeah, I think we've been talking for an hour, and I know that you're a busy guy, and I don't want to like keep you on
Sure,
longer than I should. So
sure, sure, sure.
before I wrap this up, can you give us an update on what you're currently working on, and where can people find you online?
People can find me online on Instagram at Swindle. That's SWINDLETOPHER. Swindle Topher. I guess that's really the only one I'm on right now. I was on, you know, Twitter/X, but I took myself off of that. So Instagram is the place to go. Please go there. Um, working on a bunch of stuff. I'm doing some theme park stuff right now, but you can't really talk about for Disney World. Um, I'm doing a really big Disney thing starting tomorrow with voice matching that I can't talk about. Um, lots of cool things coming, and I wish I had more to talk about. But and probably going to think of something as soon as I get off the interview, and I apologize. Um, but yeah, Call of the Elders, Call of the Elders, Call of the what's it called? It just came out today. Um, I'm in this brand new awesome game um, that was a sequel to Call of the Sea. Call of the Elder Gods just came out today. And any Call of the Sea fans out there, this is a fun sequel, and I play a psychiatrist in that. It's a lot of fun. He's a creepo. He's creepy. So go check that one out.
Oh man, I wish like we again, that's another one. That's another one. It's gonna be another one of those things where I'm like, I should play this one day, and then I never do. Another one for the backlog.
Oh, and no, and I hear you, I do. And then any Baki fans out there, we have the new Baki Do series on Netflix. Part one is out. Part two is coming. I play both Hanma and Jack Hammer and Izo Motobe in that. And part two, I believe, is coming out very soon, this month or next month. And it's some good stuff. So check that out too.
And again, I wish I was better when it comes to watching stuff because I really wanted to talk about Baki, but it's like, oh man, it's just
Oh, that's
so
okay.
it's so time consuming. It's like, oh no, I
I
don't have
know.
time.
It's okay. It's okay. It really is. Baki is a lot. It is a lot. It is so in your face. Lots of fighting.
Yeah,
um
yeah. But thank you so much for taking the time out to do this. This has been a wonderful conversation, and we got to get you
yeah,
back
yeah,
on
yeah.
here and when more stuff drops and talk about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime. Thank you for having me. And you have a good night.
All right, take care. Bye bye.